Dan, who did you get in your Spotify Wrapped? Because I know everyone's dying to hear what yours looks like. Like, what was your top played track?
My top song of 2025, and I have to add some context here because
Oh God.
no, just the context that Amazon, I have Amazon Music, and Amazon Music's on my
Oh.
phone. I don't have Spotify Premium, so Amazon
Hmm.
Music actually, and I could give you, if you want more context, I can give you the Amazon Wrapped for what they do for their wraps.
Yeah,
It's
go
not that
on, may as well.
interesting, but no, I'll give my Spotify, but it's just Spotify I use on my computer at home
Right.
rather than I listen to far more songs on my phone when I'm out on the go. So it's probably sometimes I look at my Spotify Wrapped and it isn't really a great representation, or like the percentages don't really add up because I'm like I know I didn't listen to this song enough. But anyway, my top song of 2025, I don't think it's too wrong, is Black and White Town by the Doves.
Banger, to be fair.
And I went to go and see the Doves were playing at a festival I went to see with my future brother-in-law in June, and that was quite a seminal moment of the year in terms of my music. Second, Our House by Madness, and that's probably inspired by when they did the kit reveal. I listened to
Yeah.
a lot of Our House that week.
Big
Then
up
I've got
Kelvin for that one.
two Paramore songs. Ain't It Fun?
Paramore, really? You never
Yeah,
struck me
and
as a
Justify.
Paramore
Yeah,
fan.
no. I knew a couple of their songs, and again, going back to something you love me talking about. When we went to see the Eras tour, Paramore was the opening act, and so I
So
got to hear.
Paramore opened up for Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
God, Amy's gone down in my estimations now. Used to have a big crush on
mm.
her, not anymore.
And Cult of
Give me the ick.
Personality is five. So there, do you want me to go on to my artists, or you're going to do your top five songs?
My top five is, I mean, it's pretty much the same every year. Although I didn't expect this one to be in my top five. So obviously you know how much I love Kasabian. So Kasabian are my top artist. Italian Horror by Kasabian is my top song. Then I got Fall to the Floor, the Soul Savers mix by Star Sailor. So the one you said Layer Cake, right?
Yeah,
So the one in Layer Cake, that Star Sailor version. Starburst, The Fontaines DC, Clubfoot is my fourth listen song. Jerk It Out is my fifth listen song. But it's further down, I get it's quite interesting. Like it is quite a mix. There's a lot of Kasabian in here, it's a given. But then like I've got sort of after that, I've got The Chain, I've got Call Me by Blondie. Then it goes Morning Glory Oasis. Then the Communards are in there, which I wasn't expecting. Bit of Duran Duran, Rolling Stones, Danger, High Voltage, Electric Six. There's some bangers in this list, to be fair. The one I'm a bit embarrassed by though. I feel like you're gonna judge me for this. Tell It to My Heart by Taylor Dane.
well, it's not the worst. On Amazon Music, my top song was "I" by Kendrick Lamar,
Okay, I don't really listen to
and I'm
Kendrick.
not and
I've
I'm
listened
not
to a
a
few of his tracks.
massive
I need to get more
I'm
into
not a
it.
massive fan of his, but I like that song. Uh,
Hmm.
but then jumping back to so my top artist, and as I said, the night I saw the Doves, and Hardfire was also one of the acts on that night.
Nice.
Um,
Can I guess? Can I guess? I think I know who it is.
well, you've probably seen my Instagram
I
story because
I haven't, but I know your taste, and
well,
I'm thinking.
my top artist. Who is my top artist of
So
2025?
and we've got quite similar tastes, but I know you're a little bit later than mine in terms of like if it comes to your average listening. So I'm very sort of like mid noughties to like early tens sort of indie, like prime Kasabian, really, right?
Hmm.
You're like late naught. When I say late noughties, I mean like 2008, nine to like 2012. I think it's like your prime sort of music taste year.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna go. It's either like Noah and the Whale or the Wombats.
the Wombats is the top. But the thing is, the Wombats. The thing is, though, this is the context. The Wombats didn't come into. I had some Wombat songs in my playlists already, but they were the headline act at this festival,
Yeah.
and then I just became obsessed with their music. So I'm a very much a late. I'm it's in some ways I like to think I get to things early. In other things I'm like way late to it. and this is something that I'm
Yeah,
quite late to. My mate Sam is like, because he loves the Wombat. He hasn't even seen the Wombats, and he's loved them for like 10 years live.
yeah, they're good. I do like the Wombats.
So they were top, but then Paramore, understandably, were second because they were in my
Yeah.
top five songs. Dubs were third, even though I only listened to really one of their songs. For some reason, Stevie Wonder is fourth in my top artist. But to be fair, I do like Signed Sealed Delivered, so I've probably listened to that one. I've probably listened to a few other Stevie Wonder songs throughout the year.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, but my other half was quite upset that she wasn't in my top songs that much, but she is in my top artist. Taylor Swift is number five.
I still can't, but you've went so far down in my estimations when you told me about that. I was
My
actually seething.
listening age though is 63
Yeah, mine's 63 as well.
because I do listen to a lot of like 70s songs
Yeah.
as well. So
Well,
I take that.
I'm more 80s though. So when it says you listen to a lot of late 70s, oh, I don't. I'm very 80s in terms of my music taste. So I've
Mm.
like the 90s. I got into a lot more 90s recently. To be fair, it's like a lot of like garbage and sort of like I've been listening to a lot of like Portishead and all that sort of stuff. That's what I've been getting to recently. Like 90s again. Music's shit now. So I'm a bit like, let's see what we got. So my top artists, I've got obviously Kasabian number one, Oasis number two, The Prodigy number three, Chasing Status number four, number five, weirdly, Robbie Williams.
See,
Was meant
Spotify
to be fair.
does throw a few random ones in there where I'm like, okay, I looked at my whole playlist and then I looked at the songs and I was like, okay, I know I listened to that song, but there's just no like percentage wise. I'm like, I know for a fact there are other songs that I have unless my when I've listened to these songs has been after a cutoff point or something when they aren't recording it anymore. I don't know,
Mm.
but it's I do respect that your top five is probably the same top five you had when I first met you. So I do respect the commitment to the gimmick. To be honest,
Oh,
we're staying
yeah.
in the noughties and we ain't moving out of it, and I do respect
I
that.
mean, Kasabian, I think they will always be my
Yeah,
favorite
yeah.
band. Like even when there's times where I don't really listen to them, and they come back into my rotation. I mean, because my rotation like is very much right. If when it's like good points in the season, or when the season's starting, I've got like the Sky. I listen to the Sky Sports theme mix, so like all of like Labyrinth and all that sort of stuff. I'm like fucking yeah, football's back, love that. And then when Chelsea are doing well, bit of Texas comes into it, and then obviously like it just naturally means it flows into like Kasabian, like the FIFA mixes and all that sort of stuff. So it's like yeah, it's one of those things, but one thing, right? We've spoken about ours. Did you know that the Chelsea Echo actually has a Spotify Wrapped?
Well, you
So,
only informed me just before recording, but for the sake of the act, no, Louis, I had no idea that the Chelsea Echo had a Spotify Wrapped. But please do tell me.
well, I've not opened it yet, but obviously, we obviously for those that don't know, for example, so obviously our back end we moved from Audio Boom to Megaphone, and Megaphone's obviously partnered with Spotify, so they give you like the whole shebang basically. It's just the first time we've ever got one of these, and it's very interesting, right? So the wrap for 2025 with the Chelsea Echo, I've not seen it yet. 2025 was quite a year for you. Scrolling. A little proof that hard work pays off. Our total audience has gone up 49%. So thank you very much. We really appreciate that from
It's
you
gone up.
guys.
It's gone up by Alejandro Garnacho.
And our total new audience, in terms of an increase from last year, I don't know how this is possible, but this is amazing. Like, this is what it said. Our total new audience has gone up by 486%. So you
Is
guys
that
have been,
because of the crossover, or is it? Yeah, but we're taking it. We're taking it. It's
I love
stats
it.
don't
And
lie.
then 48% from last year, total new followers. And then in terms of minutes listening, right? Pete, you lot have listened to the pod for 173,000 minutes, which is 2,800 hours, which is 120 days, 17 weeks, and 3 months, which is amazing. And we really, really appreciate that. Um, in terms of the best episode of the year, Daniel, it was our transfer breakdown, which was played 858% more than our average episode. So, as much as we appreciate that, guys, Why are you not listening to the other ones?
Yeah. What was what was the actual date of that transfer breakdown?
We did that 1st of September. We did that when the window closed at 6, and I
Okay.
think we were
Okay.
out.
See, I know I looked at my Son of Chelsea had one because as well I megaphone Son of Chelsea is yeah that's the podcast, right? My podcast stuff goes through there as well. So the Son of Chelsea had a Wrapped, and my top pod was John McKenzie when I got John McKenzie on the pod, which
Name
I was
drop.
really happy about. Um, I thought it would have been one of the transfer ones. I think it probably was below that. So yeah, I mean, is it that much of a surprise? But the scary thing is like the number of minutes people have listened to us speaking. That's
You,
terrifying. I have
you
to.
think you think that's scary? You wait till you hear the amount of countries. 59 countries have reached us. We spoke. Have 59 people listening to us. 59 countries, not 59 people. God, 59 countries around the world listening to us. Top countries: Canada, Ireland, here, Australia, United States, and obviously the UK. So we went do one fun. I think we're top 100. I think we're top 100 sports podcasts in Australia, which is massive, which is sick. I love that.
Uh,
Um,
love the Aussies.
uh, and then in terms of our top fans, right? Uh, we're a top 10 show for 272 people. Top five for 162 people. So you lot that only have us top 10, you need to sort it out. And then our number one show, right? So the rest of you that think obviously the top five, 26 people, which I think is quite cool, quite a fitting number.
Yeah,
We're their number one show, which is sick.
the Elite 26.
The Elite
That's
26, who streamed it 2.2 times more than anybody else. And 25% of them did 2 episodes in a day. 40% of them hit play within 24 hours of a new episode drop, which is sick. And then, yeah, in terms of apparently our fans have great taste in terms of their music artists, right? Quite questionable taste, I think, in terms of some of them, right? Drake's number one, Oasis number two, Taylor Swift number three. This is all you're doing. Uh, Kendrick Lamar number four, and who's Zach Bryan? Never heard of him.
Didn't he play for Fulham? I swear there was. I'm not even joking. I'm joking. There was a Zach Bryan. I'm pretty sure there was a Zach Bryan who played for Fulham. Summit
It,
Bryan played for Fulham. There was
I think
definitely
it's
a
Joe
Bryan who
Bryan, isn't
scored
it?
at Wembley. Yeah, he's the one who scored at Wembley, right? The two free
Yeah,
kicks at Wembley.
yeah. And then
I love
we're
how
in,
this intro has
yeah,
just like because should we pull back the curtain that we did actually attempt to record this a day
yeah.
earlier than it actually is being recorded, and we spent basically the same amount of time talking about Leeds, and instead today, see, I think we should just go with it. I think Leeds happened. We did our voice note review. I think we should just move on to Bournemouth. Who cares?
We should talk a little bit about Leeds because there'll be certain elements of it, but we're still not done with Spotify Rap, by the way. This is my favourite bit. Okay, people listen to our show 95% longer than 95% of other shows. 90, we got more comments than 96% other shows. We got more shares than 91% of other shows. So you lot have been absolutely amazing. And like it's this. I mean, if again we want to talk about pulling back the curtain, like me and Dan, like over the past sort of couple of months, have been a little bit down in some cases because we're a bit like, oh, like we just want to get going, want to do more, we want to create cooler stuff. There's so many things that we want to do, and we just feel like sometimes we let you down a little bit because you obviously do believe in us and invest in us, and we didn't know. And I didn't know until this basically that I was like, oh my
Mm.
god, like some of the audience we do have, like we are small and we appreciate that, but you guys have been fantastic, and we really
See,
do appreciate it.
I also do think that like you just think about your own listening habits and the shows you listen to. How many of them do you actually physically like interact with on a regular basis, like comment and share, compared to you just listen to it and you enjoy it, maybe you like it, but you're a dedicated listener. And I know there are shows like that where I don't like publicly declare or interact with that show, but I am the stats. I know that I'm an avid listener. So you do get a lot of people who just listen to our show and probably enjoy it. They may not share, they may not comment, but it's as valuable as anyone else, listening
Yeah,
to it in whatever way they do. So there is a silent, probably majority or silent bunch of people who just listen to the show and
yeah.
enjoy it, and that's appreciated as well. But to those who do, you know, interact, comment, really
We
do
like you more.
appreciate it. And yeah, the other lot have to pull up their weight, to be honest. Um, but
Joking, obviously.
yeah, it's onwards and upwards to 26.
Yeah, and then me and Dan have we like. There's a. I know we keep saying it, and I just like. I know in my track record that people maybe think, yeah, I've heard this before. Just trust us. Like we've got some things we're looking at and working on, and we're trying to price up and make sure that we can really give you guys an upgrade in 2026, because we want those numbers to get better. And we're in good company in terms of other listen shows. You're At the Bridge. People who listen to us listen to At the Bridge, Chelsea Fancast, London's Blue. So we're in good company, and with and we're looking to sort of just really take things up a notch and really push on this year. But thank you very much for listening in 2025. We do appreciate it. But yeah, obviously, if you haven't shared and you are part of that silent majority, I'm talking to you. Yeah, start sharing. Come on, give us a little nudge. Say to people, like, these guys are all right. They're great. And if you want to buy us a coffee or something, or like whatever, a beer, if you see us at the football, me and Dan aren't going to say no. We'll buy you one back as well, because we're men of the people.
I mean, he said that.
Except,
I didn't say that. He made that commitment. I ain't made that commitment.
listen, I'll have a pint with somebody. I
Yeah.
don't, I'm happy to do that. So yeah, just don't.
I tell you
That's
who
what
we
I want.
won't have a pint with. Tosin Alarabio.
Yeah, no, he already looked like he had a few drinks at the Leeds game.
Mm.
That was, yeah. I mean, look, we should briefly talk about that, because we've obviously done our voice note review, as Dan said, and I mean, I guess it kind of ties in with the presser, right? So, like Dan said, we tried to record this yesterday. So, we're recording this on Friday. We wanted to record this on Thursday. And one of the things we wanted to talk about yesterday was the selection problems and why Maresca didn't pick Josh Achimpong, who was, I think, probably the best player to fit into that team in the lack of presence of Wesley Fofana. Um, and we've already seen him and Trev have a good partnership in some big games this year. Liverpool, Josh played really well. Opening game of the season, he pocketed Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's proving to be an asset. And Maresca did come out in the presser and say that he regrets not starting Josh. And I think one of the big criticisms I have of Maresca, and I think that Dan does as well, is very much his lack of nuance. I think is the best way I describe it when it comes to his rotations. Because I'm old school. I think when it comes to centre backs, you don't mess about. You keep it with your centre backs. That's your pairing. That's your baseline. You got the triangle with the goalkeeper. The only way they're going to get dropped is if they have an absolute howler, right?
Mm.
And when he was talking about, when we were analysing them, they played long balls and they did this, so we thought we'd try and do this and do that. So that's when I'll go, okay, now the over sciencing's coming in again now, and I just don't think I appreciate, right, that, and I'm going to guess what you're going to say, mainly because you said it yesterday. When you talk about Reece James and Wesley Fofana, right? Reece James, I get he plays a dynamic position. Like he's up and down the pitch, he's everywhere, and he proved that in the Arsenal game, right? So that's when I go, yeah, okay, I understand resting him, getting him back to full fitness, getting his confidence back, developing him, right? Wesley Fofana, look, when people say to me he's our best centre back when he's fit, statistically, I've played more minutes of football than Wesley Fofana over the past 3 years, right? And he is. I don't play that often. I've only started playing once a weekend for the past 6 months, twice a week sometimes, right? And I've had more minutes of football in the past 6 months than Wesley Fofana has in the past 3 years. Now I know that playing fucking five-a-side and Sunday League is a bit different, right? I appreciate that, but Wesley Fofana has not been up to scratch, I think, for a long time. Um, and the only way he's going to get that is by getting minutes in his legs. And if he can't stay fit, he's not someone you can rely on. So he should be a starting centre back. So when people talk about, oh well, when he's fit, he's our best player. Cool, he needs to play, and that's why with centre backs is a completely different position to right back in the modern game. And he's
I,
sitting in that pairing. And I,
yeah.
I, I just think if he's not fit enough, he
I
should be considered.
No, I disagree. I think that I understand why they took him out of the firing line on Wednesday. I completely understand it. This is a guy who, because of his injury record, that's why you're a little bit cautious. I think the reason we've got to the stage we have with Reece being capable of playing more games in a week and being as durable as he has been, touch wood, for almost a calendar year, which is quite incredible, is because and it was frustrating to us because it was almost to the detriment of the team because, I remember when they were easing Reece James back in, that was during a period of Maresca's kind of worst form at Chelsea when he was under a lot of scrutiny. And it's paid dividends in the end, kind of playing him in the Conference League, maybe not starting him in the Premier League. People couldn't quite understand that. In the end, it's paid off. And I think that's what they're trying to do with Wesley Fofana. And I understand that. So I have no issue with Fofana, who'd actually already played two big games in a week and played them very well. To go, okay, you're not going to play Wednesday, but we'll have you ready for Bournemouth. Then maybe you play against Atalanta on Tuesday. And actually, there's a bit of a gap between Atalanta and Everton Tuesday to Saturday. So he might be able to play the next three games. We'll see how it goes. Again, the problem isn't rotation, it's who Maresca opted to select in Fofana's place that is the thing that baffles me. And it's good that I've said this, I think, on the podcast already. I think Maresca, I like that we're mainly, I think the only time I've felt that he's getting into a gaslighting stage is about the red cards. But other than that, he is a lot more firm and able now, it feels like, to just say the obvious part out loud. Like
Yeah.
when we played atrociously the other night, the first thing he says is, "We played atrociously." I know he didn't say the exact word atrociously, but he effectively said like there was nothing
He
about
was
this game.
fucking a shit. He was
Yeah,
fucking bollocks. He
yeah,
was rubbish.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He said it exactly like that, as Louis just perfectly demonstrated. Um, and it was Jesus. It was like literally having Enzo Maresca in this podcast. Um, he's a lot more blunter in that factor, and I appreciate that he comes out and says, yeah, it was a mistake. Like, it was a mistake, I shouldn't have done it. My concern is, why was that mistake made? Because it wasn't like one that caught us all off guard. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, Tosin suddenly had an horrendous performance. I can understand it if Tosin had been basically all right for most of the season. He'd still been a rotational figure, and there was enough evidence in recent months to say, yeah, he's a trusted centre back. Like, you could bring him in, he does an all right job, and when we need to rotate, you can bring him in. That's not the scenario that's been playing out. The evidence in front of us has been that Tosin has been an erratic, poor, fragile defender for the majority of this season.
Yeah.
And there is enough evidence that when you bring him in, and I think it wasn't just that he brought Tosin in, I think it was also that he brought Badiashile in at the same time,
Yeah. Oh,
who's
yeah.
still getting back up to speed himself, and that he didn't play Malo Gusto. So it's all going to be in the actions, right? Like, I think Fofana, and to give the spoiler away in terms of our Echo 11, I mean, I think that he will revert to the first choice pairing against Bournemouth. I don't think we'll get an answer about Achimpong until maybe Tuesday or Everton.
Yeah.
Because the Cardiff game's a bit like, that's an easy one for him to make. It's an easy one for him to rotate
Do you
there.
fancy going if we can get a pair of tickets, by the way?
Potentially, we'll see.
Okay.
Um, but that for me is the kind of the big thing with Maresca. It's, I just don't know why he made such an obvious error, and it's not an error that's new for Maresca. He's made it just this season of like rotating badly, selecting badly, and Tosin is kind of the common denominator there. So we will see. We will see how it moves forward. But I really think that Maresca, we need to be getting past these bad selection choices now in these type of games, because it is kind of amateur hour. Like, we could have all told you that Tosin probably wasn't the defender that you play in this game, and because just one more quick thing, you mentioned there that he spoke about like they spent hours looking at how direct they play. And then I still don't know how you come to the conclusion that because Tosin, one of the things that we've realized about Tosin is despite his physical profile, how tall he is, he's actually not that effective in aerial duels. He's actually not that physically commanding.
Mm.
So that should have also led you down a path where he's not the guy I'm going with. Maybe you go Badiashile and Trev as a back two. Okay, that could work. And then you have Malagusta as a right back, or you go Vachimpom Trev or Achimpom and
Mm.
Badiashile that played well
Mm.
against Liverpool earlier in the season. We got to see very
Mm.
little of it. But it just always win these big games. He just I sometimes think, and I hope this isn't the reason, but sometimes feel like he wants to be the smartest guy in the room, and he wants to kind of go with the thing that it almost like, oh, I'm going to put out a wild selection, and it's like, you don't really need to, mate. Like the obvious one was kind of right there.
Mm. I do feel that is the case sometimes. Um, I mean, like, yeah, for me, I said it and I stand by it. I just don't want to see Tosin in the Chelsea shirt again. I just don't think he's up to scratch. Um, the question is then obviously if Chelsea are going to dip into the market in January. But obviously if they do that, you've still got Ansel Mina out on loan as an example. You've still got Mamadou Sarr out of Strasbourg as well. It's kind of like, okay, well, what do you do here? If I'm Chelsea, I'm not gonna lie, Gurley's not signing a new contract. I know Liverpool sniffing around. I'm in there right now. I'm having conversations because that's a player which that's a league winning centre back. Like
Mm.
I think what we spoke about yesterday. Again, we're pulling the curtain back. We were discussing Trev as well, and sort of that pairing of Trev, and you look at Levi, you look at these other players. Like Trev, for me, feels like a very good squad player in a league winning team. And he's somebody who brings the other standards up. He's someone who, if it's not quite working out, you can put him in a centre back. I mean, if you look at, looking at let's look at Liverpool last year as an example, right? You know, I look at, you've obviously Konate and you got Virgil van Dijk, but they still had an option on the bench of somebody who's like, okay, well, maybe he's not as good as, but he can come in and make a difference still. Um,
Mm.
Arsenal got that this season. You got Saliba and Gabriel, who are the best centre backs in the league as a pairing, hands down. But they've still got, okay, if we need to, Calafiori can step in there if we really need him to. But we've still got Hincapie, we've still got Mascara. You know, we've got Jurian Timber if we really need to put people into there. But if you think about the quality of that depth and then compare it to what Chelsea have, we've had roughly the same amount of time to build a squad. And in terms of the quality and depth in that very key position in a football team, I don't think Chelsea, if I'm honest, hold a candle to the likes of Arsenal, City. Even though I know they've had a poor start this season, but even Liverpool, I think, you know, you look at the quality and depth in these positions, and then Liverpool don't even have the depth they used to. But I still look at what the players they have as their starting pairings, and I go, I don't think we're even top five in terms
Mm.
of the quality we have as a unit. Um, and I think that kind of reflects in Chelsea spending. With I think this pair of sporting directors, they spent £40 million on Axel Dazassi, and that's their highest spend in that position. That kind of showcases the lack of depth we have there. But we've got 14 million wingers, so that's a bit like, okay, well, let's think about this now, lads. Like, there needs to be an investment there for Chelsea to really push on. Like the Club World Cup was great, fantastic. Like, don't get me wrong, me and Dan loved it. We loved the Conference League. It was great to win those tournaments. But I think the premise is, from what we understand, from what the ownership say, and from what we all want, we love winning tournaments. We love winning trophies. But I'd like to be competitive in the league again.
Mm.
Just not winning it yet, but being competitive. I don't think Chelsea right now have the assets for over 38 games to be competitive, and that's been proven against Brighton, against Leeds, against Crystal Palace, against Sunderland. You know, Chelsea have not quite been there in terms of what they need within that squad. And I also do think psychologically, which I know you're big on, Dan. Like psychologically, Chelsea haven't quite had what they need when it comes to the other games in comparison to
Yeah,
Barcelona and Arsenal that we've seen this week.
yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, it's one of those things where you look at the drop points this season: Palace, Brentford, Man United, Brighton, Sunderland, and now Leeds, and you look at all of those games, and they're all on paper weaker teams than Chelsea. Or going into the game,
Mm.
Chelsea were favourites in all of those games and should be winning them. And I think that says a lot, compared to the other ones. What are your feelings on Bournemouth? They're one of these teams where there's a part of me away from home that thinks actually tactically it might be a game that suits us again a little bit. Um, and also because Bournemouth are not in the relegation zone, surely there should be some psychology that we're taking it a bit more seriously. But then I look
Mm.
at their recent form, and actually they've nosedived a little bit recently.
Hmm.
Although I'm a huge fan, so let's just start off with that because I've got another question after it. What's your feelings on Bournemouth?
I think Bournemouth are a very tricky customer because you don't know who's going to turn up. Like you've talked about how they've nosedived, but I was there when we lost 3-0 under Sari, and I was also there when we got the magic 40 points under Frank. So, it's kind of a case of you can see a good side turn up, but there's also a side there which, like Chelsea, can be very, very, very intermittent. I do worry about the likes of Semenyo turning it on because obviously I think he was at
Incredible.
Chelsea's academy, wasn't
I mean, everyone's been at Chelsea's academy, so when anyone says was he at Chelsea's
he?
academy,
Well,
I go,
he's a
I don't know.
West,
Yeah, it's
he's
a
West Kent boy.
toss up a
He's
coin,
from
isn't
West
it? He
Kent.
probably was at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he's he grew up in Kensington, so it's like he's not like he's. And when we say Kensington lads, it's not like Kensington like Roddy from Flushed Away. He was in West Kent, which was like I like West Kent. So all the Moroccan boys and all that stuff's great around there. Um, but yeah, like he's he'll have a bit between his teeth, I reckon. Obviously looking for a move in January as well. But then you've got the likes. I mean, Clive that could turn up as well. Defensively, they're not as resolute as they were. I think last season the good thing about that Bournemouth side was there was an insane balance.
Yeah.
Like that defensively, they looked really good, really solid, very competent. But going forward as well, they were playing some sexy football. So I think I'd like to hope that Chelsea can get to grips with their abilities to score in front of goal or be good in front of goal, which is something which worries me against the likes of Bournemouth more than the likes of Barcelona. But I mean, Iraola, I get what you're saying about them being more open, but they're not going to be as open as the bigger sides when we play them.
No.
I think this in terms of just an aptitude test of taking on a side which is that middle ground team, a bit like Palace. I think this is a good test to see where Chelsea are at in terms of can they pick up the points they need to in those sort of games, as well as the ones that are
Mm.
Burnleys and Leeds, etc.
See, I think I would argue pound for pound based on resources, based on the players he's lost, and the size of that club. I think you can make a very good argument that Andoni Ariola is doing the best job in the Premier League as a head coach.
The Crimson
Uh,
Chin is doing a good job. Yeah,
I rate him so highly, and I think when you consider who left that squad in the summer,
yeah.
um, and the fact that Semenyo could have left in the summer as well, it's incredible the way they've re-energized and just kept on going. And they are a all or nothing team. This is what I mean about the intensity.
An
If you
Amazon
watch
team.
them, yeah, I mean there might be a documentary coming about them. Um, they are kind of hell for leather. Now, if you watched them against Chelsea in January, the first half Chelsea really battered them at times because they did go for Chelsea and there was space to exploit. And they are a little bit uncompromising because they are so intense.
Yeah,
They've got such energy. And when you've got talent like Semenyo, um, there is obviously ample opportunity to attack and very much go for the throats. And they're a hungry team. They press in packs. Um, they try and eat teams alive and try and press them and suffocate them in their own half. And I think that's something that brings opportunity for Chelsea. But as we saw the other night, when you don't start games away from home properly, you can be completely swarmed and quickly the game goes against you. So I feel like that's the dynamic for Chelsea here. But I just want to say I think Areola has done such a great job there, and I think that I'm intrigued to see where he goes in his career, because naturally, if he keeps doing really well with Bournemouth and gets them another top 10 finish, which I think they're more than capable of doing,
Yeah,
sooner rather than later, a conversation about making that step up. But it's such the shame of it really is that, as we're already seeing with Thomas Frank, is that it's such a massive leap. Graham Potter
yeah,
was another example. It's it's
yeah.
it's very difficult. I sometimes wonder if an Areola would be better served going abroad and doing another
Well,
job somewhere else than going
yeah,
directly from Bournemouth to a top six club, because sometimes you almost feel as well like you gain a bit more respect going away from England. And if you coach at Borussia Dortmund, for instance, you are much more likely to be respected in the eyes of people perception wise than and you play Champions League football. And Dortmund's a humongous club, like it's a massive club. um I wonder if that is a better journey for him as a coach, if he's able to do it from Bournemouth, than
mm,
just going Bournemouth to, let's say, Chelsea, Man United, Spurs, in the next few years. But I think
mm,
it's going to be a really tough test, because he's a very, very intelligent coach, and I've seen him orchestrate some brilliant tactical plans, even when he's got like 8 or 9 players out injured. I think that's the level of coach Chelsea are dealing with here, and I think Maresca needs to wake up. I think the players need to wake up that this run of the season could very quickly go in opposite directions. Either Chelsea can quickly snap back into good good attitude, good
mm.
actions, and get a good win, or very quickly at this stage of the season, with a number of games we've got, spiral downwards. And I think that's what makes this game kind of a very big one.
Well, it's really tight. Like I'm looking at the table now, right? And I know we say this every year, right? But I don't think I've seen a Premier League table this tight for a while. Because we lose, right? Technically, if we lose and everyone down to 10th wins, right? And obviously this hinges on goal difference as well, because Chelsea got a very positive goal difference, right? We could technically go all the way down to ninth from fourth this weekend alone. We'd only be above Everton on goal difference unless Everton win like 8-0. So that's slightly terrifying. I'll be very honest with you. Um, but then in Bournemouth's case, right, they are 7 points above the relegation zone. So if they continue to have a bit of a poor season, but everyone else is doing better below them, they could get sucked into that. But then also, if they beat us this weekend, they could go all the way up to ninth.
Mm.
So it's like so literally we could drop to ninth, they could go to ninth. Again, goal difference dependent, but it's like we have a bad run, we could be right down the other end, which is mental. So it's kind of looking at it and going, well, how do you need to pick up those points? You need to do better. Um, I think Opta predicted Chelsea to finish fourth this season now, which right, you know,
It's pretty much
it,
where I think most people predicted us at the start of the season, or at least close to that. I think Opta or someone else did a similar stat. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of par for Chelsea, right? That's where they've been for a lot of the last decade. We've been fourth, highs of third, down to fifth, and then some really abnormal seasons where we've gone below 10th. But mostly it's been fourth, fifth, I think sixth in one of the years recently. Yeah, that's kind of where we've been. So Chelsea are not, Maresca is not doing anything out of the ordinary at the moment in terms of last season, in terms of previous seasons. He very much is just following in the footsteps of Sarri, Lampard, Tuchel, Conte in his second season. You know, it's kind of been the way Chelsea have been for a long period of time, and I think that's the $1 million question. How do you snap Chelsea out of this, and how do you take them beyond just being in the slog for fourth every season?
Yeah.
But it looks like at the moment that's what it's going to be again, and that's kind of been our bread and butter for a while now.
Well, I mean, depending on how Chelsea do in the Champions League, so I think unfortunately we're probably going to get sucked into that qualifying round, right? Um, so should they get out of that, which I think we should, and then we get into, I'd take right. I'd take a cup, quarter final of the Champions League, and fourth right now. I think that is when you and I talk about steps forward, right? I'd say that is a step forward this season.
Hmm.
I'd say that is.
I think quarterfinal of Champions League, yeah, would be decent. I would say though that if we're like 30 points behind Arsenal, I'm not going to be that pleased, I have to say, because that would be a worse points gap to the champions than whoever the champions is, whether it's Man City or Arsenal. Um, I wouldn't be happy with that. I don't think that would be in purely in a Premier League context. That would be not progress for me. That would be actually regression based on last season. Um, so I understand that the Champions League is demanding, but it's something that when anyone complains about the schedule, it's like it is a bad schedule, but it's a bad schedule for everyone. And if you want to be a top team, you have to Maresca and people who defend and try and excuse us, going from like really good performances on the weekend to really bad performances in midweek. I'm like, they have to get good at this because if they don't, we're never going to move forward. Like unless the schedule radically changes to a point where we're only playing Saturday games, which just is not the way football has gone and not the way it's continuing to go. You have to be better at rotation, and that is, I think, the big challenge for Maresca this year.
Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. That's what it should be. That should be
Yeah,
football. Yeah.
but it's not going to happen, is it? Like that's the reality.
No,
So should we
I
jump
think
into
yeah,
the Echo 11 then?
absolutely we should. So if we go straight into it, then I mean Rob Sanchez in goal. Who, by the way, I do want to say on the Leeds game, Gary Neville on commentary, the when Tosin messed it up, or should Sanchez have done better there? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's mental that people are going because, like, I mean, his passing, by the way, was fucking atrocious against Leeds. That was awful. There was
Yeah,
2 or 3. I was like, oh my God, what are you doing there? But, I mean, look, like, he's been all right so far. So I think Sanchez has to start. Cucurella left back, Reece James right back, Trev and Fafana. You
yeah,
going,
Trevor
Josh?
Fofana. No, Trevor Fofana, I think will be the back two. I think they rested Fofana just for this, right? So I think the bigger question will be in midweek whether Josh Archibald comes in.
Yeah.
Um,
So we
you
got
can't
that.
you can't take Fofana out. He's done nothing. He's done nothing wrong based on his performances to take him out. Like that's
No,
yeah.
yeah. Got Trevor Fafana, and then midfield. I do want to talk about something by the way because Romeo Lavia came up in terms of the presser, right? I'm ready to give up on Romeo Lavia.
I think we've had this conversation before. Like it's until he's able to prove that he's capable of playing more than a couple of games at a time. Like it's you can't really assess him as an option because it's not a reliable one. I think it is positive that it seems that Dario Sugo is getting closer to at least being in the squad, which is good because we haven't really seen any of him. So I think for Maresca it's a good option. And as well, Josh Achimpong was cited as a potential midfield option too for Renzo Maresca. So
Okay,
that would be an intriguing one to look at. I'm not sure if he's going to do it tomorrow, but I one to watch as well. If Josh could actually gain some minutes as a central midfielder,
that'd be interesting to see. I'll hit him sat at the base, especially with no Caicedo, because that is going to be. I mean, it's going to be Enzo and Andre Santos. I think Andre Santos, I do think was extremely poor in midweek against Leeds.
I'm
Enzo Fernandez
actually
wasn't much better, but
I think he's I actually am thinking about it. I think he's going to go James in midfield and Gusto at right back. James didn't play at all. And I
Yeah,
think he
yeah,
would have been alarmed by the lack of aggression in that central area and the amount of aggression you're going to get from Bournemouth. I think he goes Reece and Enzo in central midfield. I think he reverts back to that
which ain't bad to
because
be fair.
Andre just didn't take his chance, and Gusto only played the second half. So I think that that's what he'll do. Again, can't argue against it based on the performances we've gained when we've played that combination.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
agree. I
so
agree.
I think that would be the alarm for Maresca. So I think, yeah, Gusto and James, Gusto right
Mm.
back, James central midfield.
The argument there is you've just talked about physicality then, and I'm kind of doing this for the sake of devil's advocate. We do it for the sake of content and for the conversation. Um, Cole Palmer's fit. He's available. An extended period out. He's very much somebody who, um, physicality. You do worry that that could be an issue if you don't want to lose your talisman again with such a big run coming up potentially as well. Do you play Enzo further forward and arguably play Andres Santos next to James then? Or do you go in with Cole Palmer just because it's Cole Palmer?
No, I think Cole Palmer's back now, and I think he looked fresh enough on Wednesday to justify a start. He didn't, to me, he didn't look like miles and miles off match fit. Sometimes a player comes back and you're like, okay, they clearly are lacking a bit. And I didn't get that
Mm.
sense from Palmer at all, actually. No, I'd play Palmer. I'd play Garnacho on the left. Um, I would. It's a tough one because I think Neto comes off the bench and instantly scores, and it kind of just shows you why Maresca trusts him so much. And Esteval was quite petulant. And if you look at the last two performances of those two players, Neto comes out better than Esteval. But I am someone that I want to see Esteval and Palmer start a game together.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Um, but I'm leaning towards I think he's going to start Neto on the right, and Esteval will be on the bench. That's the
See, in my head, like I look, I think Garnacho, by the way, has significantly won me over, especially in that last game. I think the way that in the second half when it was him and Neto, right, and you had two wingers that just beat their men down the wings, and they beat them like every time. I don't think the Leeds fullbacks could stop either of them at any
no.
point. And the problem is we just didn't have that focal point because we're taking it off with João Pedro and Lindlap, which by the way we need to talk about that because that is like mental, by the way. And I'm not going to say I told you so after the Club World Cup. I told you so. I think that I think Esteval, if you look at that Bournemouth team, you do need that trickery. So I've got Neto on the left and Esteval on the right, which is also a proven combo. Which I do feel bad about Garnacho, but at the same time, I'm going, I think that's the one. Unless Al Hilal actually do pay 80 million quid for a Pedro Neto, we avoid this conversation in a
Mhm.
month's time. But I think that realistically, you're probably right, and I think it'll be Garnacho and Neto. But do we want to, for the sake of vibes, do rock paper scissors?
No, I'll go with that. Yeah, I do. I think it's as real. Like, I'm happy with Esteval starting. I am, like, especially alongside Cole Palmer. The centre forward one for me is the big unknown for this game. I actually think on merit, like, Guiu can turn around and go, I deserve a start because
Yeah,
João Pedro has basically done nothing. Delap has not looked at all convincing for me in front of goal, other than obviously the tap and he scored against Barcelona. But other than that, his performances haven't been good. And
yeah,
Guiu comes off the bench against Burnley, a game that was sliding away, it felt like, from Chelsea, or becoming a little bit awkward. And he basically just sets up the second goal and kills the game. And I think he can turn around and go, like, mate, why can't I get a go? The only thing I think Maresca would think is that the one time he did that after a midweek game was Sunderland win it. And I mean, he didn't get into the game at all. But it is a shame. And I think the name of Nicholas Jackson, understandably, arose in midweek after Leeds, because when you look at the production value of those centre forwards, and it's something me and you discussed extensively in the summer, that you let those goals walk out the door, you have to replace them. You have to have a
yeah.
guarantee of replacing them, and it's why I was so passionate in saying do not let Nicholas Jackson leave. Just don't. It's you're making a needless risk, and because it's such a long season, it can feel like for a while that everything's okay and that problem has been solved. But it's at this time of the season when that stuff starts to get really exposed if it isn't right. Because,
Yeah,
as I say, I think December,
yeah.
January, February are the months where the problems you have usually get uncovered quite quickly. And hopefully that can be turned around by Joao Pedro and Liam Delap. But yeah, not good enough.
I do think Delap. The problem with Liam Delap is we're not playing to his strengths. And in fairness, in midweek, he's the one who made the space for Pedro Neto, which was very Giroud-esque, which I enjoyed. But I agree with you that he's not
That's
doing
fair.
enough. But I also think that the way we're playing, we're asking him to come deep. Liam Delap is a hustling and bustling centre forward. He is stick on the shoulder of the centre back, annoy them, create the space, get into the box, and be on that 6 yard line, right? He was perfect for the second half. He was perfect for the second half.
Mm.
And I agree with you about Guiu, right? And I think for us, the Echo 11, he starts. But I do think it's something where Chelsea, like you're saying, Enzo Maresca is being the smartest man in the room sometimes. And the obvious option with Liam Delap is let him just play as a traditional number 9. He's not dropping deep. He's dropping into midfield sometimes to make space for uh, Mark Correa. And I'm like, no, have your centre forward, have him your focal point. Simple football sometimes. Um,
Yeah, I do think that Delap is percentage wise. I still think Delap is probably more likely to start now. Palmer's back,
yeah,
um, because I just don't think Joao Pedro's offering enough really.
no,
Um, but Delap has to start taking his opportunities. Like he has to. If you're not scoring, you have to be, as you say, like you have to be contributing in quite obvious other ways.
mm,
Um, but I would say like there are concerns, but that I can't see him starting Gio. I just can't see him doing it. I know he came off the bench the other night, but I
no,
don't think he's likely to do it.
no,
Um, but Delap needs to show a lot more. Like the attack, whoever starts up top needs to show a lot more. They really
yeah,
do, because those conversations are I can already hear sort of the retort to it being like, why are we talking about players who aren't here? And it's like I always say, like the reason those conversations, when you make transfers and when you let players go, you have to make it so that that player becomes an irrelevance in a couple months. Like
yeah.
Madueke, right? Like I like Madueke, right? But no one can seriously sit here and go, to just talk about Garnacho and specifically Esteval, right? And Neto's improved, I think. No one's talking about Madueke because there's no kind of real justification because you're like, well, we got enough options there, really. Like there's enough quality options there that you can feel confident that we've kind of moved on from Madueke. Jackson's the one just for the player, but it's not really working for the player because he's never going to be the starter at Bayern Munich. He just never was, which is why I've always found his desire to go there quite puzzling, to be honest.
It's a
Other than
name
just
on the
being at
CV.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably the only reason. Like, yeah, Bayern Munich and things have clearly got to quite an unreasonable stage with Chelsea, quite clearly at that point. But it's obviously got a mega coming in a few months' time from Strasbourg, and it remains the argument that Chelsea still haven't sorted out their centre forward options, which for the amount of money that's been ploughed in is simply unacceptable. It's simply unacceptable for the money being ploughed in. I spoke about the resources to output of Areola. I think the resources to output of Chelsea in an attacking sense, in a centre forward sense, you can't really argue has been justified.
No, agreed, agreed. Okay, so we going Delap starting then, or we going Mark Q?
Yeah, Delap starting.
Okay, all right. So your Echo 11 for Chelsea versus Bournemouth, a 3 o'clock kickoff at Dean Court, not the Vitality, which I learned last year thanks to the amazing boys at the back of the Net Pod, Bournemouth podcast. If you want to go listen to them, I suggest you do because they're really good blokes. Give you good insight, better than me and Dan, even though we do. I think we're pretty on it. Um, You've got yourself Rob Sanchez in goal, left back Mark Correa, right back Malo Gusto. Your two centre halves are Trev and Fafana. Your two defensive midfielders are Reece James and Enzo Fernandez, with Cole Palmer further forward in the number 10. Left hand side, we've got Pedro Neto, right hand side, because we want to see them play together so desperately. It is Cole Palmer and Esteval Willian. And your number 9, leading the line for the Blues, is a man who was born 10 minutes from Bournemouth, and that is Liam Delap. But that is your Echo 11. Guys, let us know your thoughts, obviously, about everything in the comments down below. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, use the comment section there as well. We had a lot of comments on one of our pods. We had 9 comments on one, which is apparently 96% more than other pods. But if you want to get involved in the conversations, because we do actually, me and Dan want to start doing like mailbags and all that sort of stuff. Get down in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on everything. Ask questions. We want to get involved with that sort of stuff. And give us a 5-star review. And again, just to reinforce, thank you so much for 2025. That was a nice lift for me and Dan, seeing that wrapped for the creators, and you guys are such a massive part of that. So, please let more people know about the pod. Let's get those numbers going even higher next year. And really, really sort of nailing everything that we want to be and you want us to be heading into 2026 and beyond. But I've been Louis.
I've been Dan.
And this has been the Chelsea Echo. We'll see you next time.